bound up in his loss. And until he'd been in his mid-20s, probably, he hadn't fully been able to separate those two things and think of home and his cousin without a measure of pain and anger. Even now, when he pulled into Hope Springs Ranch, a strange sensation took hold of him. Nostalgia, grief, and home, all rolled into one. He'd been contending with it a lot lately, because his, for lack of a better word, retirement was still fairly new, and being in one place and not on the road was unusual for him. But that was a choice he'd made, and one that was taking a bit of time for him to settle into. It had been just over 3 months, and it still felt wrong in some ways. It was easier to pretend that all your demons were dealt with when you just spent a good portion of the time running from them. Made things simple. At least, as simple as they could be. The problem was his demons had done a decent job of catching up to him on the circuit, and that was when he'd decided it was time to move on. When Cal had fallen, how could he live with something happening to his mentee? Cal was his best friend, and with his guidance had gotten hurt. No, that had brought him back to a dark, raw place, one he didn't want to visit again. That calm before the storm, that bright ray of sunshine revealed to be the headlights of a Mack truck bearing down on him. He'd read that poem that said nothing gold could stay. In his experience, it turned out gold was fleeting, and revealed to be fool's gold on top of it. Good never lasted, and it was rarely real anyway. He hadn't been thrilled about Cal wanting to come for Thanksgiving, but he felt responsible for the accident, so in the end, he hadn't been able to say no. He pulled his truck up to the front of the farmhouse, and the door opened, 3 dogs spilling out the front and down the front steps. "Back, mutts," he muttered when he got out of the truck, smiling affectionately at the creatures as he bent down and scratched them behind the ears. He looked up and saw Sammy standing on the top step of the porch, her baby on her hip. Sammy was married to his cousin Ryder now, but she was another member of their ragtag family. She hadn't lost her parents, but her situation at home, as he understood it, had been unacceptable, and when she was 16, she'd come to live with them. She'd never left, and she and Ryder had gotten married a year earlier. Finally, in his opinion, the two of them had spent way too long dancing around the truth. Not that he could blame them. Nothing in his life had ever made marriage look particularly appealing. His parents had been unhappy, slaves to a ranch and their children, to marriage vows they'd said to each other, and had always seemed like they might regret. For just a moment, it had seemed like it might all be fixed. For just a moment, it had seemed like they'd be okay. Then it had all been destroyed. That bright spot of hope, swallowed by reality. After years of unhappiness, his parents had just died. Jake couldn't imagine that kind of life. "How are you doing?" he asked. Sammy shifted the baby from one hip to the other, the little girl reaching out and grabbing her mom's blonde hair. Sammy laughed and unwrapped the chubby fist from her curls. She looked happier than he'd ever seen her before. He supposed for some people there was something to be said for this life. God knew Ryder seemed happier. But then, it was impossible for Ryder to seem more grim. Jake felt pretty guilty about that, with the benefit of age and wisdom. "Great," Sammy said. "We've been seeing so much of you lately. I feel spoiled." "Well, that's good, because it won't take long for you to just feel sick of me." "Never," Sammy said, coming down the steps and offering him a hug. Sammy was like that. Effortless, easy affection with people around her. He admired it, but he'd never much understood it. There was only one kind of touch he was free with. Sex was simple, and being a champion in the world...